Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Patrick Cyber here at Fundraising BIDness Talk. Coming to you live today from Beaverton, Oregon. It is what Chamber of Commerce probably promotes. It's raining. It is a little, it's warm. It's almost 60 degrees, but it's a little raining here. But that's okay. Hey, appreciate you chiming in and joining us today here at Fundraising BIDness Talk. We get together every week and chat about what's going on in the fundraising auction business. And we're excited to chat again, as always. I want to make sure that, as you tune in, please, be sure to say hi and tell us where you're coming in from. Leave us comments in the chat, and we'd love to respond. And always, feel free to ask questions in the comments. We appreciate hearing all of your comments. So let's jump right into it today and talk a little bit about what we're thinking about today. And that is, I am of the opinion that we have made the evolution here from the traditional silent auction in a crowded ballroom with paper bid sheets and spending a lot of time organizing the items and having them put on display and all the different things that happen associated with a silent auction. And when we moved to the virtual environment back starting in March of 2020, we have embraced online auctions. And so we've got a couple of years under our belt of experiencing this new medium. And as we start to go into the next evolution of our business, when we start coming back together, we've talked a lot about how we're going to take best practices of the gathering environment and combine it with best practices of the virtual environment. And together that'll end up being our new space. And there's a lot of different iterations, but one that I think is consistent and definitely one of those best practices from virtual was incorporating the online auction into our new events. And so I wanted to share with you, we've spent a lot of time here at our company talking about it, visiting with it, trying some different things to really increase the net revenues for our nonprofit clients. And so I wanted to share with you kind of our philosophy on the traditional, what we would call an online auction, and share with you some of the best practices that we're seeing and that we're having success with our clients. And so we're going to walk through that today. And like I said, please be sure to say hello. Let us know where you're coming in from, and also ask any questions as they come up. I'm not opposed to answering those right during the show. It doesn't even matter if it's on the topic. We got plenty of time. We're here for you today. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's talk about the online auction. We obviously, if you're going to execute an online auction, there's a couple of things that you need to think about right away. First of all, what platform am I going to use for that? There's a lot of different online platforms available to nonprofits and to organizers today to utilize for their events. And I'm always going to tell you that a lot of them work. A lot of them work well. There's some that I think have some weaknesses in them. My favorite, if I'm coming straight from the heart and telling you who I recommend when someone comes to me and they do not have auction software yet, I'm always going to introduce them to Octria. I think it is the most robust, value-driven platform that performs on multiple levels and does phenomenal work for our nonprofit clients. So a lot of the things I'll talk about today are definitely covered in Octria, but there are other platforms out there, whether it be Greater Giving, schoolauction.net, GiveSmart. There's a lot of different platforms out there that have different elements that we're going to talk about. So let's dive in and let's think about it. Let's start with we're replacing our silent auction with online auctions. And what does that look like? I think, probably the first thing that we need to focus on is that we're going to maximize the number of items that are available for online bidding. And there's a reason for that, right? The In the past, we would kind of divide up our packages for a gathering event into silent packages and live packages. And today, in this new environment, um, we're doing different formats with gathering or simulcast bidding or virtual. And it feels to me like we are reducing on a regular basis, we're reducing the number of live auction packages to really a very select few. For me, the determining factor is that I feel strongly that those packages will do significantly better in a live auction format, which would mean that we are going to bid call it, whether it be virtually or in person. But I think that we have an opportunity as we move into this new environment to really right size our events. And, the one thing that I always hear from folks attending and feedback I hear socially is that, hey, that auction, that live auction went on way too long. They had 25 items in it. And yes, it does go on. Trust me, I'm the guy calling bids, and I know that can be a long time. So I think what we're seeing is that in the past, I would say that we probably tended to put more items in the live auction because we knew they would definitely do better in the live auction, and there were some reasons for that. First and foremost, when you put things in the silent auction in the previous environment, you had paper bid sheets. They only had 12 lines. They only had 10 lines. It was a fixed number of lines. So that meant you restricted the number of bids that you could take. You only had bidding for, let's say, 45 minutes to an hour and a half, whatever the length of your social hour was, right? And in that social hour, you were competing with lines at the bar, the social atmosphere of seeing people for the first time in a long time. There was a lot of constraints on that. And the other thing that I didn't care too much about was, when the bidding got active, when the most people got there was right before we went to the dinner, and we would move people into another room to sit them down for dinner. And we had to close the bidding on a time call, not necessarily when people were done bidding. And in an auction, we like to take bids until people are done bidding. So with all that being said, now we fast forward into the online world, and all of a sudden we have unlimited, or we control a much larger amount of time for people to participate and support your cause, right? And we're going to talk about those elements. And it's also 24/7 access. People can access your bidding window, your auction platform at their convenience. And so let's talk about how long should our online auction be open? Well, I tend to think it should be at least 7 days. And I'm going to tell you to beware of the starting day of the week. It should be leading up to that signature element of your event, whether that's a gathering event or whether it's a live stream virtual event. And so when I say be sensitive to the starting day, what I mean there is if you're going to do your gathering event on a Saturday night, I wouldn't necessarily start the bidding the previous Saturday. I would probably start it on the Friday, 8 days before, right? So think of a bidding window of a minimum of 7 days, and not necessarily starting it on the weekend, okay? And I'll share with you a little bit more about why we would do that, because we like to start our online auctions with a live stream. We think it's great to kind of celebrate and get everybody's attention, let them know that we are going to start the online bidding process for our auction items. It gives us an opportunity to put together a quick live stream, possibly with myself as the auctioneer, and then our event chair or development director and executive director from the organization, or board chair, and talk about a couple of things. One, first and foremost, is why are we raising money? And second of all is explain to people how they can participate. I think a lot of people are catching on really fast about how to participate in a online auction, but I think there is still, every software is a little bit different, and every event's a little bit different. And I think it's helpful to do that kickoff live stream, is what I call them, and that helps to explain what's available and why we're raising the money, showcase a few items, and teach them how to participate. And then when it comes to closing that event, closing your online auction, this is different too. When we were doing our in-person silent auctions, like I said a few moments ago, we used to close the bidding before we brought everybody in for the plated dinner in the main program with the live auction and the special appeal. And so we would shut it down at, say, quote, 7 o'clock, right? And now I'm going to tell you that I want you to consider begin closing within 1 hour of the end. And I need to edit that. That's funny. Within 1 hour of the end of your signature event. And what do I mean by that, Patrick? In closing within 1 hour of your signature event. Right, there we go. And so within the end of your signature event. So if we have that gathering event on a Saturday night, and let's say that we're planning on it being from 6 to 9, then I'm gonna start closing the online auction maybe at 9:30 or 10. Okay, so that we can take advantage of the momentum of having all those people in one space, right? Whether it's in the space because they're gathering for the event, or it's in the space virtually because we're doing a live stream for this signature event, and we have all those people watching us at that one time. So I'm going to encourage you, don't close the bidding before that signature event. In fact, I would say keep it open until after your signature event, but within an hour of the end of the signature event, go ahead and close that online packages or all your online auction. When we first started going to online events and online auctions, I saw a lot of auctioneers and organizations recommending to stay open 24, 48, 72 hours after their signature event. I really struggled with that concept. I couldn't figure out what the logic was. But I came to the conclusion in talking to folks and understanding what their actual results were. I came to the conclusion that they didn't start their bidding early enough. And secondly, they didn't promote that the bidding was open, that all their marketing efforts were driven around that signature event and telling them, hey, we're getting together on Saturday, or the live stream's on Saturday, the live stream's on Wednesday, whatever it was. We didn't talk about the entire window of fundraising, which is that week. So when we open our bidding on our online auction a week before our signature event, now so we have a week of bidding. Well, that's great, but we got to tell people, okay? And that's why we do that kickoff live stream. But I saw a lot of organizations who were trying to keep it open after their signature event. They saw some bidding, but it wasn't a lot, okay? And it was, I also found there was a correlation between those events and that they didn't start their bidding early enough. And if they did, they didn't tell anybody, okay? So I'm going to encourage you, start a week in advance, start closing, and I'll explain a little bit more about that begin closing comment here shortly. But I'm going to encourage you to use a window of at least a week and start closing it after your signature event, within an hour of the end of your signature event, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour. Either one I think is great. Okay. And then let's talk about one of the other things that we saw a lot of discussion about was our starting bid. Where do we start our items, and what are the increments? And so I'll share with you that I looked at this environment when we first started, and I didn't know very much about online auctions at that point. I knew what we had done in the past in the benefit auction world or the fundraising gala world, but I also recognized that my counterparts in other areas of the auction industry, folks who sell antiques and collectibles, that sell real estate, that sell automobiles, that sell farm equipment, that sell business liquidation, that coins and collectibles, all those items, they've been doing online auctions for 25 years. And so I reached out to them and said, what are some of the best practices? And that was where we kind of came up with learning about the 1 week bidding window, keeping it open a week. Many times they also said to make sure you had 2 weekends involved, right? But when it came to starting bids and increments, it was unanimous, okay? And the unanimous answer was start at $1. And I was like, what? Start at $1? And every one of them said the same thing. It does not matter where you start the bidding. It's all about where you finish. Okay. And I kept hearing over and over, Patrick, there is the pride of ownership and the fear of loss. And that is derived from as soon as someone makes that first bid, they feel like that they're going to own that product or that vacation or that special experience that you have in your fundraising auction. And they will continue to bid to keep it, right? But if that starting bid is too high because we started things at, let's say, 40% or in some cases 50% in our old silent auctions, if we started that way in a online auction, we would not have near the success because we eliminate a lot of our bidders right from the get-go. But when we can draw bidders with a small starting bid and smaller increments to begin with, we will attract bidders. And I found it very, very powerful in social media and with our kickoff shows. When we promote what we've been doing in the fundraising auctions is starting at $10, right? It is a fundraiser, okay? So I say start them at $10, start them with $10 increments, and let's see where they go. And so we incorporate that into our marketing messages, whether it's on Facebook posts, whether it's on any of the social platform posts, whether it's in emails that we send to our communities and within an organization. When we say all bids starting at $10 or nearly all items starting at $10, that will drive traffic, okay? And in our world, more bidders means more money, okay? Different than in the gathering environment where we used to talk about more bodies does not equal more dollars. What we know in the online auction world is that the more bidders we have, the more money we're going to raise, right? And every bid is raising money for your nonprofit organization. So I'm going to encourage you starting bids, starting at $10 if you can. Of course, if you have consignment packages, you have some reserves, you have some requests from maybe the donors, maybe I know one that I see pretty regularly is a donation from an orthodontist, and they're making a gift of a $5,000 orthodontic procedure available in the auction, that they're paranoid that it would go for $500, which I don't think it would, but they like to see it start at a higher number. I'm okay with that. Honor your donor's request. Just make them aware, right? I actually, ironically enough, I have an event going on right now where two donors separately are members of the same private golf club, and one has they both have made a donation to play golf at that club, and one of them set a high, in my opinion, a high starting bid, and the other one said let it fly at $10. And I think that there are 0 bids on the higher starting point, and I think the package that started lower has now exceeded the starting point on the second or competing package. So Starting at $10, it's a great way to go. Get people involved. It gives you something to talk about, and you will be blown away how many people you get registered and how many bids you get in that first 24 hours. It's a lot of fun to watch. And then with respect to increments here, what I do is I start them. If we start an item at $10, I'll leave it the increment at $10 also. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. A lot of times what I do is I make myself aware of the value, the fair market value of the package as determined by the donor, and I will monitor the bidding. And when the bidding gets, let's say, above $100, I will increase the increments to 25. When we get to $500, I tend to increase the increments to $50. And when we get to 1,000, I tend to increase the increments to $100. Now, I will also say that there's a little bit of a caveat. It's a little more subjective than that. Let's say a package has a value of $150. We started it at 10. We get to 100. There's only 5 more bids to get to that fair market value, so I tend to leave it alone, and I'll let them bid it out at that number. Or if I think a package, sometimes fair market value versus what we think it's going to sell for, right? Sometimes, we have a history, and we know that, the fair market, this package has never reached fair market value. But I always try to make it reasonable to keep the bidding going. And folks, this isn't revolutionary, right? I mean, I would say it's fairly unique in the benefit auction world and in the fundraising auction world. But we've been adjusting bid increments on the other side of the auction industry for many, many years. In fact, some of the softwares actually do it automatically, and I have not found any of the benefit softwares that do that. I'm hoping at some point that will become kind of the way we do it. I can tell you that we started doing this over a year ago, probably 16 months ago now, and our clients have been ecstatic with it. They've been nervous about it at first, right? And they say, well, what if we sell that $500 package for $20? And I said, well, what makes you think you were going to sell it for $250 if you started the bidding at $250? Nothing, right? So I don't see any packages going. I haven't seen any surprises yet. I haven't seen a package that anything like that happened to. And I think as long as the organization is promoting the event and promoting the packages, there's next to no chance that something like that happens. Okay. And like I said, always remember, hey, it does not matter where you start the bidding, it's where you finish. And every single bid is raising money for your organization, right? So I would love to, if anybody has any questions, fire them in the chat. I can see them and I will be happy to answer them, and also say hello. Tell us where you're tuning in from today. See, we've got some friends over on Facebook watching us, and a couple on YouTube. We've got one on Twitter watching us, and one on Twitch, and that's fantastic. Just reach out, say hello, tell us how's it going today. All right, and then let's talk about some other elements that I want you to be aware of and some of this comes down to the software platform that you're using, right? And one of the things that I think is really crucial in these online auctions is the bid extension tool, or anti-sniping is what we call it truly in the auction industry. This is a feature within the software that prevents folks from waiting till the last possible millisecond in a timed auction to make a bid, and we like to avoid that, right? In the other online auction industry, they've had anti-sniping for many, many years. Some of the fundraising auction platforms have it, some of them don't. I do know that Auctria absolutely does have it, and we use it regularly. What it will do is if we set it up in the online bidding module so that if a bid is received on a package in the last 5 minutes, that if a bid is received in the last 5 minutes, it will extend the closing time another 5 minutes. Okay. So what that does is, the current high bidder gets outbid in the last 5 minutes of the closing time, and they will get notified that they've been outbid, and they basically have 5 minutes to place another bid. Now, what you find is that the majority of people are using, whether they're using their cell phones to monitor their bids. Autry has a wonderful app that is fabulous. I'm constantly amazed at what they've been able to do with that. But if you're monitoring, it gives you that tip to say, hey, you've been outbid. You've got 5 minutes to keep bidding, right? And then the other side of that is that some of the softwares will allow you to determine how many times that it will extend. And I would encourage you, we always set our clients to be unlimited. And that falls in line with the concept that, hey, folks, in an auction, we take bids until people are done bidding, right? Until nobody else is bidding. And so that recreates that. And this is drastically different than what we saw in the old silent auction, where you had a bid sheet and I would stand in a crowded ballroom and count down to when we closed, and our volunteers would run around and pick up all the bid sheets, right? I would have loved to have the option to, items that we're getting heavily bid on, to allow them to keep bidding, but we didn't have that option. We do now in online bidding. It's called bid extension or anti-sniping, depending on the software you're bidding with, utilizing. And then I'm also going to encourage you to make sure that you activate the proxy or max bid opportunity for your online auction. And what that means is, this is a really cool tool that allows people to set a maximum amount that they are comfortable with bidding on a package, right? And let me walk through that for you a little bit. If we have a package that, let's say, has $1,000 value, and the current bidding is at $100, well, if I want that package and I am willing to spend $700 to buy it, okay, but I would love to get it for $125 if I can. Well, if I use the proxy bid or the max bid feature, I can set my maximum number of $700, and then the computer software will bid the minimum I have to bid to be the winning bidder up until my max bid level of $700. So in that case that I just shared with you, the next bid increment was at $125. So even though I typed in 700 and placed it as a proxy bid, the computer software will bid 125 for me. And if the auction closes and my bid's at 125, then I'll spend the 125. But if I get outbid, it will continue to raise my bid up to the $700. Now, why do I think that's important? A couple of things. One of the reasons I think it's important is because I like the concept that we're not constantly sending our bidders notifications that they've been outbid. You've been outbid. You've been outbid. That forces people to make the decision, do I want to bid again? Right? And I think it can, if we've got active bidders and we've got bidders that are bidding on multiple items in our auction, that I just assume not bother them if we don't have to, right? And not force them to make a commitment again. So if I can get that first commitment and they can say, hey, I would spend up to $700 on this. I'd love to get it for 100 to 125, but I'm willing to say I'd spend at least a most of 700. Let's let the computer bid for them. So it's all raising money for us. And, if the person doesn't want to use proxy, they can always disable it and place it just as a hard bid, and they can put 700 on it. That's their choice. Okay. But I think it shows flexibility and respect for the bidders to make sure you're utilizing their proxy or max bid feature of the software. Okay. And then one thing that I see occasionally that is absolutely, in my opinion, I cannot figure it out why anybody would do this now, and that is utilize a buy it now. Now let's talk about that for a second. In the we used to recommend in the silent auction environment with paper bid sheets, we used to recommend a buy it now line. And the concept there was to encourage bid jumping. In other words, what we wanted was if somebody was willing to bid more than the fair market value, we would traditionally recommend in the old silent environment, we would say, you have a fair market value, start your bidding at, let's say, 40% of that fair market value, run your bid increments up to 135 to 150% of fair market value, and then put a buy it now line. So what that was created to do was there was a lot of folks that came to those social events and they were there to socialize, but they also wanted to support the cause and they wanted to buy certain things. They didn't want to have to run back to their bid sheets. They didn't want to have to try to monitor bidding on multiple items, right? Because it wasn't all in their phone. It wasn't as easy as just looking down and seeing it. They had to physically walk around a room. So we created the buy it now feature so that people could spend more money. Quite honestly, it raised money for folks. Okay. But today in our online auctions, I don't see any reason that I would stop the bidding before people got done bidding. And I don't care if it's 150%. If somebody's willing to do that, somebody's probably willing to spend more, right? So I'm going to encourage you 100%, do not use buy it now features or set a buy it now amount on your online auction. Now, some folks think of buy it now as a for sale item, which means, it's an item that has a set price and you can buy it today, right? I have one client, we sell all sorts of fun things to help the kids at the children's center that they fund and support. And so we sell solar lanterns, we sell pregnant goats. Okay, how funny is that, right? But this children's center is in Kenya, and pregnant goats can change a child's life because it gives them all sorts of things that they can do, and the solar lanterns help them with getting around in the evening because there's no power. So, but those are for sale items. You spend $25 and we'll provide a child with a solar lantern. That is not the same as a buy it now. Okay. So buy it now is when you have an auction item, don't set a max, don't set a buy it now level. Okay. And then one of the other things that we've just started using, and we're going to use it a lot, and I want to share it with you. I brought it up on the show, the last show we did, episode 50. I'm going to share it with you today. And this is called a real-time auction leaderboard. And this coincides with, folks, the philosophy of leaving your online bidding open through your signature event. So make sure that online bidding stays open till after the end of your signature event, whether that's an in-person gala or it is a live stream virtual event. You're going to keep that bidding open, okay? And one of the features of Octria that I think is really cool, I didn't even know about it a month ago or 2 months ago, and someone in the industry, good friend Kristen, reached out to me and said, hey, tell me about leaderboard function. And I was like, I'd love to. I don't know anything about it. And I dove into it, and the folks at Octria have really something unique here, I think. And I dove into it and I was like, wow, I've got an event I could use this for. And that was a couple of weeks ago. And let me share with you what it is. I'm just going to put it up on the screen for us. This is a real-time auction leaderboard. And what it does here, folks, is that it is showing in real time as people are bidding. So what it does is, regardless of the item they bid on, it'll just have a row that will just keep growing, and the next person that bids, their bid, shows their name, shows the item and the amount they bid on, right? And it's every transaction, it's every bid as it comes in shows up. Now, you're probably wondering, how would I use this? Okay, well, that's a great question. And what we did with it was we put it up on the big screens during food service the other night. So We had 200 and some odd people in a ballroom environment. And when they came in and we sat them down, we had, different things on the screen, like a welcome and a couple of logos, and we went through some sponsor logos. And then I encouraged everybody, hey folks, we're going to give you a few minutes to enjoy the fabulous meal prepared by our culinary team here, and while you do, I want to make you aware there's a live real-time auction leaderboard going up on the screen while you're enjoying your dinners tonight. And if you want to see what's happening in the auction, that's a great way to do it, right? And I didn't know what was going to happen. And we put it up on the screen, and it was mind-blowing. It was hysterical. It was fantastic. All of a sudden, we had all these folks yelling across the room. They would see someone bid on an item that they were actively bidding on, or it drew attention to an item maybe they hadn't even seen. And they thought, if that person's bidding on it and they're bidding, I got to check it out. Or they would see a low number come up and they're saying, wow, I mean, that's, like right here, for example, here in this auction right here, here's a $250 gift card to Chown Hardware, which is a fabulously hip, cool, outstanding hardware store. It's really not even fair to think of it as a traditional hardware store. It's really, really cool stuff. Anyhow, high-end stuff. This is a $250 Chown Hardware gift card, and currently the bidding's at $110, right? So what it did was, when it put it up on the screen, people were like, wow, $250 is going for $110. I got to bid, right? They pull out their phone and they start bidding, okay? Or there was a trip, or there was whatever it was. It was fascinating to watch people. I found it to be very interactive. I went back and looked at the timing of bids, and we got a lot of bids in that 30, I think it was 25 minutes of food service from when they, brought out the dinners and placed them in front of people. It was ridiculous how many bids we got. So I'm going to encourage you, check out your auction software. If it has a leaderboard function, think about how you might use that. We're gonna recommend it pretty regularly now moving forward. We think it's a really cool tool, and I think we'll use it during the social hours, right? Because in this new environment with moving away from silent auctions and moving to online, one of the other things that we're doing, folks, is we're not displaying the items in the signature event, okay? And I can't tell you how many committees have told me so far, wow, we had no idea how much time we spent transporting these items to the event, displaying them, getting all these extra tables, getting all these extra linens, getting all these different display props, printing all the descriptions, printing all the bid sheets. This has greatly reduced the amount of time from your volunteer committee, especially on the day of, right? And folks haven't missed it. And what's nice is, because the bidding ends after the signature event, then you coordinate distribution after the fact. If it's a school event, pick them up at the school the next Monday. If it's a nonprofit event and organization, maybe have folks come by your office and pick them up. It gives you that special opportunity to say thank you to your donors in a special way that maybe you wouldn't have if it was, hey, they're standing in line for 20 minutes to check out and you're racing around and people are trying to grab things and they're frustrated and it's late and I want to get home. Don't take the items to your signature event anymore. It's not necessary, right? You also have the chance that a lot of your signature items, if you're promoting your online auction correctly, a lot of those items will not be sold to people that are at your signature event and in person, right? So so we're going to use this real-time auction leaderboard a lot more. I think it's an incredible feature in Octria. Speaking with Rob and Lori, I don't know how many people have actually been using it like this, but we're going to use it a lot. And I encourage you to look at your software if you're not using Octria. Look in your software and see if you can come up with something similar, because I think it'll be a really cool way to engage your audience and make it happen. So anyhow, hey folks, this has been a lot of fun. I hope you've learned a few things today. I want to encourage you and let you know that if you missed anything, all of our shows are always posted at fundraisingbidnesstalk.com. You can watch all 51 episodes, and learn what we were talking about at the time and what's happening. Also encourage you to stop by, check out gEventsllc.com. That's our website. If you want to talk about your event, if you'd like us to help you answer some questions or consider having us provide our auctioneer services to your organization and for your event, reach out. There is a scheduling app on there. You can schedule a free consultation. We'd love to chat with you about your event, regardless of where it is in the country. In this new environment, who knows where we can go, right? So appreciate you tuning in. Look forward to seeing you every Wednesday right here for Fundraising BIDness Talk. I hope you have a terrific day. Thanks for tuning in, folks.